Hey guys, welcome to remote instruction. We are going to be moving forward from this point with grades that will impact your credit or no credit for term 4. So the first thing we need to do is finish up our chapter 4 that we had been working on before we left each other. So we had been doing solving quadratic equations and we had learned 5 ways to solve quadratic equations. So I just want to review those real quickly and then tell you what I want you to do here for day 1. So when we learned about those 5 ways, the first one that we learned was solving by graphing, where we were looking for our x-intercepts. So we would graph it using a graphing calculator or any kind of option that you have, excuse me, on your Chromebook or whatever device it is that you're using, which TI-84 or Texas Instruments is allowing students to download the TI-84, or you can use Desmos Graphing, DESMOS. It has a really nice graphing calculator on it as well. But either way, you would be looking for your x-intercepts, and remember that works really well if those x-intercepts are nice whole numbers. Then the next one we talked about was solving by factoring and using the zero product property. So we would solve that by starting with factoring those 2 sets of parentheses, x in each one, and then they have to multiply to c and add to b. Remember, it needs to equal 0 before you do that factoring. And then after you have it factored, taking each of those 2 factors in the parentheses and setting each of them equal to 0 and utilizing your zero product property. The third option that we talked about was solving by taking square roots, in which case there can't be just an x term in it. It can only have the x squared term. So we want to isolate that by addition, subtraction, division, whatever it is you need to do to get the x squared alone, and then square rooting both sides. Remember, when you take a square root, you should have the plus or minus in front of it. Then the fourth option we talked about was completing the square. So when we solved by completing the square, we had that nice box in there. We found the perfect c value to make the perfect square trinomial. We wrote it as a binomial squared, square rooted both sides, and ended up with our 2 answers that way. And then the last option that we had was solving using the quadratic formula. It did need to equal 0. We found the values of a, b, and c, and then we plugged them into our formula of x equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. What I want you to do today is watch a couple of videos that just remind you about the quadratic formula and completing the square. Remember, those are the 2 types of methods that can be used for every single quadratic. If you're going to use completing the square, the leading coefficient does need to be 1. So you need to make sure you divide everything by any number that might be there. But I thought it would be important for us to just spend a little bit of time reviewing those. So day 1, your assignment after watching this is to watch 2 more videos. The first one is called Understanding the Quadratic Formula in 10 minutes, but it's actually like a 20-minute video. And then the next one is a pretty short video about completing the square. I just want us to get back to thinking about solving quadratics, reminding ourselves how to do those steps. So I will see you tomorrow, and we'll be looking at quadratics with radical expressions or radical answers at that point. See ya.